have Mike Thomson from Mike's Fancy Cheese and his young buck, a fantastic young buck, in the cabin here. So Mike, you're very welcome. You're a Belfast boy up on the north coast up today, so of Northern Ireland. But tell me, how did you get started with cheese? Because I know the first time I met you, you were working in a cheese shop.
Yeah, so I started again, I'm city boy, as you said, in Belfast, not from any sort of farming stock or anything like that. So I was working in a cheese shop in Belfast, and a lot of people started asking us for local cheese, and there was no sort of local cheese in Northern Ireland. It was all sort of down south. So that's kind of what started me on the cheese journey, to sort of figure out how we can, go away, learn how to make cheese, and bring it back to Northern Ireland.
And where did you learn that?
So I did a place called the School of Artisan Food. So it was set up with the idea, again, sort of a big sort of slow food ethos behind it. It was to sort of bring back all the old skills of cheese making, bread making, charcuterie, and we sort of were fortunate to be the first on that course, which was great. And then just from the back of that, we ended up doing a lot of work placement at a lot of sort of English farmhouse cheesemakers, and then ended up in employment with guys called Spark & Hoe Farm, and they made a couple of great raw milk cheeses. So that's kind of how I learned, was at the college, and then seeing how it was done on farm. Right?
And you are the only raw milk cheese producer in Northern Ireland. So why did you go down that route? Because I know that is not the easy route to go. Right?
Yeah,
so
well, again,
why did you go down that way?
For sure. So again, from coming at it from going and getting a lot of work placement on farms, and being new to it, like it was all the places that we that were making raw milk cheese. It was just, it just made sense. Again, whenever I was starting, to buy pasteurizer is a lot of money, so that was one of the reasons. But for me, it's just the simplicity of a raw milk cheese was what the beauty of it was. Being able to get that sort of the raw ingredient of the milk, and all you're kind of doing is just setting it up like dominoes and letting the cheese or the milk take its path. So I just love that sort of simplicity of us sort of making a cheese straight from a raw milk. We work in partnership with a farmer. He's about 6 minutes away from we make it in the cheese, and then we can drive down 20 minutes into Belfast and sell it in a sort of big city. So that was the appeal to me, was just the simplicity of it.
And the milk here is probably different from
For
milk,
sure. Yeah, 100%. So whenever I moved back to Northern Ireland to get started, again, that was the biggest thing, was to find a farm. We were very fortunate. So we make the cheese in Newton Ards. So you've got a real sort of, from that sort of area down the Strangford Peninsula, there's a lot of different dairy farms, and again, lots of sort of small dairy farms, which is very important for making a raw milk cheese. You have to have really good animal husbandry, the farmer has to know his cows, and then you have to have a great relationship with your farmer whenever you're picking up the milk 3-4 times a week. So that was the main challenge for us starting cheese making, was to find a farmer who sort of had the same ideals of what we wanted to do, and that was farming in a way that we were able to make a raw milk cheese. We were fortunate that we had a couple of new members of staff came on in the summer there, so we just recently did a farm tour with our farmer, something we sort of do every as the season changes, just to sort of relay that on to even the people in the shop as well as our cheesemakers. And it was great to get out on the grass, and it's like a carpet up there. He was sort of saying he's got real clay soil and real luscious grass. So we're very fortunate that you've got that sort of the terroir there,
the terroir, got the rain.
The rain. That's it.
Well,
that's it. Yeah, exactly.
So
so that kind of that, lots of rain, and then whenever the sun comes out, you've got the sun. And again, very fortunate. So our farmer's a guy called Smith McCann, and it's him and his brother who've got 2 farms sort of nearby. So they obviously are next generation dairy farmers, split the farm into sort of 2 smaller farms, and then they're able to use they grow a lot of their own feed and forage for the winter as well, which has been great to sort of.
Yeah, and you're involved with the Slow Food Presidia, it's obviously the Irish Presidia, and you're also Slow Food UK, and you're a Northern Ireland supporter as well. So obviously you're steeped in slow food, and you alluded to that earlier. So what does slow food mean to you? Yeah,
it's great. It's been great to be a part of slow food. Again, I was I've always been a member of slow food, and it was almost sort of accidental. Whenever I said I was working in that cheese shop, I was very fortunate to be 18, out of school, but working in a cheese shop that had a butcher's next door to it, that had a fruit and veg next door to it, that had a bakery next door to it, and there's very few places left that have that. So whenever you're 18 and living a student lifestyle, but able to go in and buy a pork chop instead of having to buy 6 pork chop, you know what I mean, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where I really got interested in food. And it's just, again, like I said, that sort of simplicity of, you know, especially being in Northern Ireland, having lots of great produce, and it's just trying to show people the access to it. That's kind of what we wanted to have with our shop, where we just supply Irish cheese to say, like, look, this is what's available here, and make it easy for people, like, you know.
Yes, because you got your own shop now in Belfast, so, and it's great.
Yeah, well, again, that sort of spawned out of Slow Food as well. So obviously we're part of the Irish raw milk cheese Basilia. So I actually went from being a cheesemaker, and then we used to do a lot of markets, and obviously we just make the one cheese. So whenever you're doing a market, you sort of don't necessarily want to be just selling one blue cheese. So then, as being part of the Basilia, we started buying all the other raw milk cheeses, and then that sort of grew into a bit of a following at markets, and that sort of ended us in the shop. So again, Slow Food kind of responsible for that.
Yeah,
as well.
and very important at the moment to support each other, especially with Brexit. And so it's great that you have the shop. And
Yeah.
So Mike, you've brought some of your cheese. You've got big, fantastic Young Buck. Well, first of all, why is it called Young Buck?
Again,
is that obvious?
No, not at all, not at all. So, because, like I said, we were the first people to make a raw milk cheese in recent times, obviously, in Northern Ireland. We didn't want to allude to, like, you know, call it after an old townland or anything like that. Obviously, there's a crazy rich history of cheese making in Ireland. You know, it's in the mythology, Queen Maeve and kill the slingshot, cheese the eye, and bog butter and stuff like that. But because there's nothing in recent times, we wanted something that was, you know, a bit sort of had a bit of a Northern Irish tang to it. And again, obviously in Northern Ireland, you don't want to attach something to a place name.
Nope.
So, you know, so again, Young Buck just kind of made sense. It's the cheese that's the Young Buck, you know, again, it's like that sort of we up and comer kind of thing, like, you know, sort of good. That's where it sort of started from. So this is like, we're bringing the cheese here. It's like a Stilton style. Obviously, you can't call it Stilton. No. It's got a protected name, but it's based on that kind of style of cheese. So I brought a wee bit here. That it's a month old, so this is actually how it starts out in life, because people sort of see blue cheese and they just obviously, you know, a lot of times assume it's blue from day one kind of thing, like. So we brought it, this is like 4 weeks old here. So this is how like it starts off in life. It's very like crumbly, kind of like your white Stiltons and Wensleydales, and it gets this really cool kind of like orangey, like tacky rind, and that's kind of like what's going to start the cheese making process kind of thing. It's being broken down from the outside in, and then eventually whenever the blue gets in, it's being ripened from the inside out, like. So that's it after a month, and then this is it sort of fully ripened at sort of between like 12 to 16 weeks we would usually sell it. Again, you know, we used to just sell the next one off that was like off the shelf and age wise, but now we're starting to get to the stage where we'll core the cheese and we'll sort of sell it by the amount of blue. Again, being a raw milk cheese, it's a very sort of variable product. So again, we can get some cheeses that are like a lot heavier blue in, gets a kind of like yellowy paste all the way through. Sometimes we'll cut it and it'll still look like this and white, and you can't wonder where the blue is, like, you know. So that's the beauty, like, yeah, whenever we were starting, one of our customers that we were sort of sell to, he's like, just make a raw milk blue cheese because no one's doing it. And we're like, yeah, we'll do that. And then we realised why no one's doing it.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's the joy of having a cheese shop, is that we can sort of convey this to the customer. And again, cheese a lot of times, obviously pre-COVID, was sold by taste, so we're able to sort of just get a bit of cheese on the end of a knife and let people try it. Like,
so how long have you been making this cheese for now?
So we've been making cheese for about 7 years now. Like,
and yet, you know, you really you've struck a chord, you know, because I know that I love seeing you know, going to Dublin and seeing Young Buck on a menu, a cheese board, and on Instagram, which is the past year I've seen things. But you know, it's great to see, you know, chefs throughout Northern Ireland and in the UK using your cheese. You must get a thrill out of that.
Yeah, no, it's really nice. Like, again, we love that sort of full spectrum of, like, you know, it's being used, you know, in places like Ox in their cave, they have like a sort of dish with it, with you know, so it's really exciting seeing it used there. But then also the thing I love about it is, like, I live up in North Belfast, and the little pizzeria beside us, you know, little like neighbourhood pizzeria, he's got it on the menu there as well. So it's the full spectrum, which I really love. It's such a you know, it's an honour to be on like all the sort of really high-end restaurants. But also I love like the fact that it's a local product, that it's really easy for people to get their hands on. within, they can come to the shop, they can, I'm sort of never too far away.
And your shop's not in a fancy part of Belfast,
no, it's down the back alleyway
yes,
in the back end of town, again, that sort of came from, we used to do a lot of markets, and we'd find a lot of regular customers, so we thought wherever we build, people will come.
Yeah.
So it was more just the fact that it's like a really cheap place. We've got a little sort of maturing room in there, so we're able to buy a lot of our hard cheeses in bulk, so we can keep the price down for the end customer. And yeah, you don't have to use a lot of storage space. Just that's going to be taken up in your
and it's great because you've breathed light into that area as well, which to have a fancy cheese shop in the rough end of town, that's the way we should.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's it. Again, it's all these kind of things where like Belfast is like a very walkable city once you get out of your car, kind of thing. Like you can sort of walk from one side of it to the other in about 10-15 minutes.
Exactly.
Like so you've got all these little sort of back ends and laneways and stuff like that. That's hopefully out of the back of this, people decide they want to do something fun and exciting like.
Are you going to just keep making Young Buck, or have you other ideas for the future?
We'd love to do more, but we're sort of like hemmed in by size of where we are. So we constantly pester our farmer to build us a nice sort of cheese building up on the farm, and that's kind of hopefully that's our long term aim is to be on farm with like nothing either side of us that we can expand out a bit, like So yeah, hopefully we'll be making something different soon, but in our current setup.
In the meantime, we've got
that's it. Especially
you never grow tired of
this year, like we're sort of at the minute, like obviously we're in the height of Christmas cheese making. So in about 2 weeks' time, we'll not be any room to move in our unit for Young Buck.
I've been talking to charcuterie makers and cheese makers, and they said, we're thinking about Christmas. And I'm like, but anyway, Mike, thank you so much for doing this for Slow Food, and I'm going to cook a few dishes with your Young Buck cheese. Lovely. And we'll put the recipes for everybody to try. But thank you so much, and for doing this beautiful cheese.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.
Get something stronger.
Wine next time.